Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Suburbicon, starring Matt Damon, Julianne Moore, Noah Jupe, and Oscar Isaac, directed by George Clooney. Now, this one is another one I don't remember having fond memories of, like with Monuments Men. So let's see what it's all about. I don't remember this movie too well, so it's going to be my first time seeing this since theaters. Let's get into it. Welcome to the town of Suburbicon in the year of 1959, which makes me think the town is racist because it's all white folks there until an African American family named the Myers and their son Andy move into town, and the townsfolk thinks about harassing them for half the movie, which is really sad, but unfortunately it really happened as I hate this town because they're a pack of racist motherfuckers. The non-racist people in Suburbicon are Gardner, played by Matt Damon, Margaret and her sister, both played by Julianne Moore, and Gardner and Margaret's son Nicky, played by Noah Jupe, from A Quiet Place in Ford versus Ferrari, and another Matt Damon movie. And honestly, I can't connect with these people as Nicky wakes up to a couple of robbers barging into the house and take advantage of Gardner like he's nothing. For example, getting them both a drink on a tray. And if it were me, I wouldn't cooperate with them at all, as that would piss me off while they put Margaret in her no, not Margaret, Rose in her wheelchair, and one of the robbers kills Rose off, which is very upsetting, while the neighbors harass the Myers, as the acting in this situation in this movie is awful. And I honestly wish this was a revenge story with Matt Damon beating up on the robbers while Rose's funeral, Nicky chats with his Uncle Mitch, who in my opinion is the only person doing the right thing, but I still can't stand him in this movie. While Andy gives Nicky a snake and does it and comes back as if what was the point of that scene. Although, yeah, he did get a snake for that reason alone. I still think it's a good point, but as this movie is shot poorly in my opinion. Gardner goes to work while the movie has nothing to going on, as what the fuck is the point of the movie all about, while his boss wants to chat with him and make him feel better and gets a call from the police station and call out which suspects are who, while Nicky helps Margaret out with work at the grocery store and cops take them to the police station with Gardner, and Nicky sees the suspects while Gardner does absolutely nothing about the two robbers, which is a bullshit way to continue the plot as well as the movie. Gardner tells Nicky not to talk with Mitch or anybody about this family matter, which is so badly written, as this movie is, in my opinion. Gardner and Margaret dance with each other, and we move on to the next day, and Nicky comes home from a baseball game of his own, and he hears a sound while he grabs the knife, which is really fucking dangerous for a kid to hold a knife like the way he does, as he could have killed someone while he sees Gardner spanking Margaret in the ass, which is terribly awkward. Meanwhile, the Myers are getting fenced up, and Nicky doesn't want to live in Suburbicon anymore for the reasons in this movie, as I'm not going to say it again. And he calls Uncle Mitch at work while the robbers barge into Gardner's office and punch him in his office, and says to take care of Nicky as he saw them in the police station. And now you're risking a kid to get killed because of two robbers? And I'm calling bullshit at this point. The townsfolk make a bunch of noises to the Myers house in order to piss them off, and Mitch calls Gardner at his work, asking if he called him at work, while later that night he talks with Nicky about no visitors from Uncle Mitch or anyone whatsoever, and the writing in this is painful to listen to. For example, Gardner thinks about sending Nicky to military academy, which is again very fucking painful. The grocery store manager raises all the grocery items to $20 to Mrs. Myers in front of Margaret, while she just stands there, and the manager makes a scene in the grocery store as people watch, and I can't believe all the racism in this town. And the movie goes all over the place, as I'm 50 minutes into the movie and I'm still thinking, what is this movie supposed to be about? As I'm stunned that George Clooney made this shit into a movie. I'm also thinking, what was he thinking at this point? Monuments Men had a reason, but this does not. Margaret meets Bud Cooper, played by Oscar Isaac, who ends up barging into the house and chats with Margaret about Gardner and his business. And coincidence, and he makes Margaret very uncomfortable, and he sends himself out, which is a horrible scene. And Oscar Isaac comes off unlikable in this movie as well. It gets worse for the Myers household while the cops protect them from the racists around their house, while Gardner comes home and gets news about Bud barging into the house earlier in the previous scene. While he comes back to chat with him about the money, Bud asks for a cup of coffee while Margaret poisons his cup of coffee as Gardner puts him in his trunk of his car and puts him in a quiet section after knocking him out, and rides a bicycle, which is a horrible sequence. Margaret tries to poison Nikki with a sandwich, and the robbers come in and kill Margaret and Nikki, hiding from the two criminals, but eventually gets caught until Uncle Mitch beats up the robbers and saves his life. The snake is free and hides him in the closet and gives him a gun, which is, again, very fucking dangerous. Uncle Mitch calls the police while the other robber finds Gardner and gets him killed because, well, not Gardner, but the robber gets himself killed because the robber wasn't paying attention. And Gardner rides away, which was a tad silly from the trailer and in the movie. Gardner gets home and sees Margaret dead, but Nikki is safe while Mitch came to the rescue, while he lies dead and sees the closet door is bloodied up, and finds Nikki with the gun and chats with Nikki and says, "Stay away from Andy." And I'm starting to think he's a racist motherfucker too, as he says Gardner plotted all of this and talks with him about words and moving to Aruba. And I'm starting to think this is a stupid movie with questionable dialogue and the situations. We move on to the next morning, and the Myers house is trashed, and people tell the TV reporters about the rumors of the Myers, while Gardner lies there dead. And how did he die? Which is a real plot hole. And Nikki goes outside to play catch with Andy, and the climax is just awfully painful to watch at the end of the day. Now it's time for my rating. I'll give this movie a 2.1 out of 10. As it turns out, this is so far the worst movie director George Clooney has made in his life, as the movie makes a lot of questionable choices. For example, harassing the Myers because they're African Americans, as this town is a pack of racist motherfuckers. And Gardner didn't call out if was the robbers. And I hate this town, and these characters are stupid, which is a bullshit way to continue the plot as well as the fucking movie. The movie is shot poorly, and the writing is awful and painful to listen to. And I don't know what George Clooney was thinking of making this shit into a movie. And the way it's shots were horrible, and I couldn't believe all the racism in this town, as that was my main problem with the movie, although unfortunately it did happen in real life. Unfortunately, this movie is very bad to the point I can't believe what I saw presented on screen, while I was getting confused with this and The Informant, which also stars Matt Damon. And this is, from what I remember, much worse than The Informant. I might have to revisit that one day, but I don't know if it'll be anytime soon. But this is a solid non-recommendation, as I can't believe what I saw on screen. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with The Midnight Sky. And until then, good night.